Hey guys, how's everyone doing? Thank you so much for watching my videos here and showing interest in the stuff I do. I promised you guys to do a little bit about TXVs, and I've been thinking for a while the best way to start off the series. And hopefully, if you guys have any questions or anything you wanted to ask me about, go ahead and post it in the comments, and I may not know it, but we'll try to research it, and we'll maybe do some experiments and kind of get to the bottom of it. That's usually how I learn, is hands-on doing stuff, but getting the theory down really helps as well. It's helped me out, so I apologize maybe in advance for the shakiness. Let's dig into some stuff here. Let's start with a very simple valve here, and this is going to be a description of an internally equalized valve. So there's that big misconception I mentioned earlier about what exactly does an internally equalized versus externally equalized TXV really mean. So to understand that, we first need to know the three forces at work on this TXV valve. Force number one we're going to start with is the bulb pressure. There is a pressure inside this bulb. As the heat increases, the pressure increases and is pushing this spring down in an opening force on the valve. So force number one, bulb pressure. Force number two, we are going to say we could describe it as suction pressure. In the internally equalized valve, it's outlet pressure. And that is going through this little chamber right here, and that is a closing force acting at the bottom of the diaphragm to close it. So as the pressure is trying to open it, the higher the evaporator pressure is trying to close it. So to just stop right there and kind of give you guys an overview. Okay, so a TXV's job is to maintain a constant evaporator superheat over a wide range of conditions. So it's going to do that very similar way that we calculate superheat in the field. It needs to know what two things do we need to know to calculate superheat is, of course, suction line temperature and evaporator pressure. So the internally equalized valve is going to get its suction pressure reading right here at the outlet of the TXV, because it's going to be pretty close to the outlet of the evaporator's pressure, because these little valves go on simple reach-in refrigerators, walk-in, maybe a water fountain cooler, anything that's got a very simple evaporator with no distributor and hardly any pressure drop. That way the inlet pressure is pretty close to the outlet pressure. Not so in our air conditioning units. That's why we never see an internally equalized valve on an air conditioner. So once we have that down, that this valve is going to sense the evaporator pressure from the equalization line. And the reason they call it an equalization line is because it kind of equalizes the valve for a large pressure drop evaporator. Our evaporators have distributors. They have a pressure drop. Just the sheer length and size of the evaporator is going to have a significant pressure drop. So it's got to equalize that pressure drop, and that's why they call it that. It really does not have anything to do with off-cycle equalization, which is a pretty big myth in this industry that I hear time and time again. So just thought I would clear that up right out of the gate and show you the difference between the two. So let's have a look over here at some valves that are externally equalized. It's kind of hard to see. That's the little nut over there for the external equalization line. So what that's going to do is it's going to pick up the pressure from the outlet of the evaporator, and that line is going to come under here, and it's going to be pushing up on that bulb pressure, counteracting. So the higher the evaporator pressure, whoop, it's going to start to close the valve. If the evaporator pressure lowers, it's going to start to open the valve. So force 1, bulb, pressure, and suction line temp. Force 2, evaporator, pressure, suction line pressure. Force 3 is the factory setted superheat spring, and that is kind of what is keeping the whole thing in a balance, is the superheated spring. So 3 forces acting here on this valve. So here we can see a cutaway of the check valve built in. Most modern valves have this, and that allows it to flow backwards through the valve in the heating mode. So just thought I would throw that out there as well. So let's get this theory down. First, about the 3 forces at work. And if you guys have any questions about that, let me know. I thought I would mention as well here, that is how a TXV is a non-bleed TXV, and they do that for a couple reasons. It increases the efficiency of the equipment by holding that warm liquid refrigerant back when the compressor cycles off, and it allows for quicker, when the unit starts back up, it allows it to get back to its perfect, gets all the freon back in the right spots quicker, because that liquid freon is not let to migrate into the cold evaporator. So it does that by, as the compressor shuts off, the evaporator pressure is going to rise above the bulb temperature, and the valve is going to shut off until the bulb temperature rises and starts to counteract that evaporator suction pressure. So it will equalize a little bit, and it equalizes differently as the temperatures change, but typically that's a good thing when you throw your gauges on a unit and you see that it's not equalized with the TXV. Yes, a reciprocating compressor must have a start kit installed, and I recommend the 521 True Potential kit anytime that you have a reciprocating compressor on a TXV. It is necessary. Scrolls do not necessarily need them. 3-phase compressors do not need them either. So that's the beginning to our TXV school. Let me know what you guys think. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to dig into it a little deeper.